ഓരാ നിന്നിൽ മുങ്ങിടുവാൻ കൊതിയായിരുന്നേ മുട്ടോളമല്ല അരയോളവും പോരാ നിന്നിൽ മുങ്ങിടുവാൻ കൊതിയായിരുന്നേ യേശുവേ നാഥാ അങ്ങയെ ഞാൻ ആരാധിക്കുന്നു സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു യേശുവേ നാഥാ അങ്ങയെ ഞാൻ ആരാധിക്കുന്നു സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു ആരാധിക്കുന്നു സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു.
Thank you, Crazy. Reverend Father Jino Injabalakal, the Youth Director of the SYM Eparchy team. As the Youth Director, you have been the driving force behind our community's growth and progress. Acha, I would like to welcome you to share few words enlightening today's seminar.
സ്നേഹമുള്ള ബിജു സാർ, സ്നേഹമുള്ള യുവജനങ്ങളെ, നമുക്ക് വളരെ സന്തോഷമുള്ള കാര്യമാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു വെബിനാർ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇന്നത്തെ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ നമ്മുടെ യുവജനങ്ങൾക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ആവശ്യമുള്ള ഒരു വെബിനാർ ലഭിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് ഏറ്റവും നമുക്ക് ആവശ്യമുള്ള കാര്യമായതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് യൂത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഇത് അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യുവാനായിട്ട് സാധിച്ചു. അതിന് ഏറ്റവും നമുക്ക് പ്രഗത്ഭനായ ഒരു വ്യക്തിയെ തന്നെയാണ് ലഭിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു വെബിനാർ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇന്നത്തെ സാറ് ഇതിന് ഏറ്റവും പ്രഗത്ഭനായ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏറ്റവും ആവശ്യമുള്ള ഒരു വെബിനാർ ലഭിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് ഏറ്റവും നമുക്ക് ആവശ്യമുള്ള കാര്യമായതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് യൂത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഇത് അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് സാധിച്ചു. അതിന് ഏറ്റവും നമുക്ക് പ്രഗത്ഭനായ ഒരു വ്യക്തിയെ തന്നെയാണ് ലഭിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. സോറി, ഞാൻ തന്നെ യൂട്യൂബിലും ലൈവ് കൊണ്ടാണ് ഒരു ഡബിൾ വോയിസ് വന്നതെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. സോറി. അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് ഈ വെബിനാർ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇത് ഉപകാരപ്രദമായി തീരട്ടെ എന്ന് പ്രത്യേകമായിട്ട് ആശംസിക്കുകയാണ്. നമുക്ക് പഴയ യൂട്യൂബിന്റെ ലിങ്കിന് ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം വന്നതുകൊണ്ട് പുതിയൊരു ലിങ്ക് എല്ലാവരിലേക്കും ഷെയർ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഗ്രൂപ്പുകളിൽ അത് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുവാനായിട്ട് പ്രത്യേകമായിട്ട് അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. നല്ലൊരു വെബിനാർ എല്ലാവർക്കും ആശംസിക്കുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു.
Thank you, Acha. It's my great honor to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's seminar with a wealth of knowledge, Mr. Biju Dominic, Chief Evangelist Officer of Fractal Analytics, Chairman, Finel Mile Consulting. He pioneered the development of the field of behavior architecture by combining learning from cognitive neuroscience, artificial intelligence, behavioral economics, and design. He has delivered lectures at the London School of Economics, Chicago Booth School of Business, University College London, and several leading business schools in India as ISB Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Calcutta, XLRI, etc. He authors a fraternity column, Behavior by Brain, in Mint newspaper. Today, Mr. Biju Dominic will lead us on an exciting journey of exploration into Youvolution. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and challenged to think beyond the ordinary. Without further ado, let's give a thunderous round of applause to our incredible speaker, Mr. Biju Dominic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jinocha. Thank you, Ashley, for your words of introduction. Um, First, one, two small, let me begin with. I would strongly recommend if you could switch on the cameras, because it is very difficult for me as a speaker to see these empty boxes in front of me and then speak to that. It's very, very difficult. So I would really strongly recommend purely as a speaker. Otherwise, I'll find it very difficult to get any sort of inspiration to speak. That's one. Two, unfortunately, I had a very hectic weekend, and last night I was in Cochin. I was the keynote speaker at the Kerala Management Association. Chief Secretary Dr. Venu also was there. I couldn't say no. I knew this was there today, and so I agreed. And but the flight was delayed, and it landed at 2:30 morning. I had another talk in another church. My voice has gone for a complete toss, and I hope I'll sustain myself for the next 1 hour. In between, if you see me coughing or stopping the audio so that I can have a water, it's purely because I'm just trying to gather my throat. Really unfortunate. I am really sorry about that. Third is the clarification. Ashley said this is a session on sex education. I will speak about sex. I will speak about but that's just one part of the youth problems. I'm going to talk to you about the problems that you guys face, and sex, and those are just one part of it. And I hope I'll be able to cover. Now it's about 20 minutes past our starting time, so I'll broadly hint upon it. I've been telling Father also that yeah, this is just the beginning, getting you to look at things in a slightly different way, and so. So this is a conversation that we begin. And also began, I think, if I'm right, last week or week before last, I was having a chat with your parents. And I did touch upon some of these topics. And that's when your director said, can you address the youth of our diocese on it? And I said, I'm happy to do that. Okay. So here we begin. With all that introductions over, here is what we begin. Yes, as we said, it's all about youth. And so I know when we speak about youth, I wish I could meet you in person. But today morning too, I was meeting a set of youth in Mumbai in one of the churches. And I asked them, how mature are you? And, when do you consider yourself to be mature enough to take decisions that matter in life? And I know many times when your discussions, and mostly those heated discussions with your parents, you would actually tell your parents, Amma, I'm a grown-up girl. Don't try to preach too much to me. Papa, I know, I'm a grown-up boy. Or you would actually say, no, I vote at 18, and I decide who the prime minister of this country is. Now, can I not then decide how long should I stay back tonight with my friends, and why should you interfere into those? So the question is, when do I consider myself as a human? When do I consider myself to be a mature person? Oh, by the way, one thing I can tell you is right through this talk, I'm not going to talk to you anything from a spiritual point of view. That's up to the Reverend Fathers and others to speak to them about. I'm going to speak about an area that I've been do for a living, and I do for a living is look at how the human brain functions. And I work in the area of neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience, or computational neuroscience. And obviously, now these days I combine that with the world of artificial intelligence. So what I'm going to speak to you today too will be from that perspective. So coming back to the question of how mature I am, obviously then we'll go back to how mature human brain is, or when does human brain really reaches maturity as far as decision making is concerned. There is no living being that is born as imperfect as a human being. I don't think any of you have lived in the villages of there. Most of you have been in the towns outside Kerala. I grew up in a village in Kerala and I grew up there. So a cow getting pregnant, cow giving birth to a calf. How does your father or how does the workers in this one figure that out? How do they clean it up? and within few minutes, the calf starts standing up. Within a day, it starts running around and all that. We have used to it. So we know that that's how a normal living being is. Within a day or two, or within an hour, it stands up. Within a day or two, it just runs around like nobody's business. And within about the second to third year, it's ready to procreate the next set of, the calves. So at the age of 3, now human being has not even stood up properly. And that's how imperfect we are. That imperfection is because when human being, which we were earlier, our forefathers evolutionarily were on 4 legs, and we stood up. When we stood up, one of the things that happened is the gap between the pelvic muscle of the woman, and that just narrowed it down. And so today, given that restriction out there, there's no way to push the thing out before, because that becomes too big. Then otherwise it won't come out between the pelvic muscle. And that's why the human being has been pushed out at 9 months. Otherwise, I'm sure, like anything, the brain and all of it would have been completely, fully developed. And then we would have waited, but we have no option. We push it out, and we push it out. The nature pushes it out. God, in His creation, pushes it out as a completely useless being who just can't even lift something by itself for a long, long, long time. It's by puberty, and earlier generations used to hit puberty by about 13 and 14, but today's studies says that every 10 years, the age at which you hit puberty goes back by 1 year. And today, by 10, 11, kids start hitting puberty. So girls produce egg on a monthly basis, and guys produce sperm on a regular basis. That's the time where, a significant changes. By then, a lot of development of the brain has happened. And mostly by puberty, there's a very significant development in the human brain, and which is your reward systems. There are systems in the brain that take care of different things around, and maybe that's a very simplistic way of putting it, but take it as reward systems. Who says, you get thrilled by speed, who get thrilled by sex, who get thrilled by new experiences, who want to try out risky things, and you get a high. Oh yeah, I did it. Oh, you did it. Oh, great. That high you get is because of a chemical called dopamine in your system. And reward system is just seeking to, release more and more dopamine in your system. And that reward system is what makes you go after the things of the world which are bad. I want to dance. I want to have a mating, a partner. I want to enjoy. I listen to music. I really want to dance. I want to speed up my bike. All that is part of the reward system. That's fully mature by as soon as you hit puberty, 11 and 12. I often ask the youth, here is an 18-year-old boy, here is a 65, 70-year-old man. Both are asked to sit on a car, and that car, on a racing track, both are just moving along. And suddenly you introduce a cycle in front of them. And I often ask them, who will brake first? And I asked the same question today morning too. And some of the people said, 18-year-old boy, because they were smart. But some of the people said, no, he'll be the 65, 70-year-old man. And that is right. It will be the 65, 70-year-old man who will actually brake first. Why? Now, I don't have time, but I study the human brain. And I study the human brain and its decision-making process from the sports field. And that's where a large amount of decisions on the human brain processes are being studied. And I don't know how many of you have done the mathematics of playing a cricket shot, where when the ball is delivered from the hand of the bowler, it reaches the batsman. Oops. Okay, now, can you hear me now? Okay. I think it was unmuted. I again request some of you to switch on the cameras, because it's Okay, now I think I can see these faces are there. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you give me a thumbs up? Yeah, thank you. Okay, in the cricket field, you'll find that when the ball is bowled at about 130, 140 kilometers per hour, I don't know how many you've done the mathematics of it, the ball travels from the hand of the bowler and it reaches the batsman in about 0.45 seconds. That's mathematics, 145 kilometers, 22 yards, that's of the cricket, it crosses that in about 0.45 seconds. Surprisingly, that's exactly the same speed at which the ball reaches. I know definitely all of you watched that wonderful Wimbledon finals, and when someone who serves at about that speed, 180, 200 kilometers per hour, the ball reaches the other person in about 0.45 seconds. Same, surprisingly, is the time that is available for a goalkeeper who's about to receive that penalty kick, and the time that is available for him to decide is that guy is going to move the ball towards my left or towards my right, so where should I dive? The decision-making time is about 0.45 seconds. Now, I'm not getting into the theory of it, but all that I want to say is that suddenly you realize, and I'm breaking it down, that the human brain is never processing any other thing all by itself. Let me go back to where I can see some faces. Again, I can't see any faces. The reason why I request you to switch on the cameras is, again, neuroscience. Our brain has about 11 million bits of processing. Of the 11 million bits of processing, 10 million are sitting in visual, our visual processing system. And the moment you switch off, like I do this, and then I speak to you. I can continue to speak for the next 1 hour. By then, I'm sure you will be playing video games and other things around there. Because if you are in a coffee shop and you've gone to meet your new partner and friend, he just puts the goggles. He just puts the goggles, and he just put the goggles, and that means you can't see his eyes, and how uncomfortable you will be in that whole conversation. It's because our brain is developed that way. We have to see the other person's face. It's called mirror neurons. You have to see that person's expressions. And that's the only way you connect with that particular people. And otherwise, you just can't connect with people and just on the audio. However brilliant your voice modulations and other things are. That's why, again, I'm requesting if you could please switch on the cameras. It just allows me to deliver the session for next 1 hour with some sort of enthusiasm, because otherwise I just won't be able to connect with you. I don't even know, the boxes are as what it is. Okay. So coming back to the, it is the brain is something that is actually is anticipating, and what happens is anticipation comes from your experience. Your experience of every experience you get allows to absorb that. So the 70-year-old man over the years actually has seen accidents. He's heard of accidents. He knew kids cut across, people there, a kid died, or kid went to the hospital. Now, an 80-year-old boy does not have any experience. And when you are not able to experience that, you are not able to then anticipate it. And so because of the lack of anticipation is where the kid breaks late. Now, where does that processing of, hey, that's a kid who's coming in, he might stop, he might not stop, but then don't worry, you just move your leg from the accelerator to the brake. If that idiot crosses, at least you are ready. So you stop in time to make sure you don't hit it. And there is a part of the brain that is directing that action of yours. And that is called the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is there at the head of this particular place. Now, that is the rational thinking. That's the control system of your brain. Now, the prefrontal cortex reaches its maturity only by the age of 24, 23, 20, 25, 24, 25. It is where it reaches its maturity. This is an established biological fact. Some of you are more interested about it. Just do a search called Teenage Brain in Scientific American, and it has got a whole cover story explaining all that I mentioned to you right now. So others, I just want to tell you is, as youth, you should be aware. Then if you are 18 and 19 and 20 and 21, I think your brain is not fully developed, because your reward systems are fully active, but your control systems, which your prefrontal cortex, is not developed. And so it will push you into territories. It will get you into risk and get you into things around there, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's unwanted sex, it is pornography, all of them, it just sort of pushes you because the reward systems are pushing you. There is no way you can control it. So I won't blame you. I know elder generation might say your values of the younger generation have gone down. We were not like that and all that, all that. Now that is not there. It's a biological problem. And you need to be cognizant of this biological problem, that biologically, I'm not fully geared up. So one of the things I tell the youth is, today morning too, I was saying the same thing. I said, if you can avoid alcohol till about 23, 24, your chance, and have a drink after that. Once you get a job and with your money, you go and then buy a drink and enjoy it. I wouldn't say no to that. But one thing I can be sure that you will not become an alcoholic. If you begin your drinking, maybe about at the age of 24, 25, the studies have really proven that. So all the problems that you must, even drug usage, you'll find all of it sort of peaks before 23, 24. And a lot of studies, have shown that I know, except the new 2 drugs that have come in, the meth and the other one, obviously, and I'll speak about it later, because the manufacturers are trying to outdo what the brain is and trying to make sure that people get hooked onto it for a much longer time. But otherwise, drug usage normally comes down by about 26, 27. It just dramatically comes down, except for a small percentage of people that becomes very, very addictive. But I just mentioned that because what is driving you and your behavior? It's a biological electrochemical reactions between your brain, which is burns up about that's all these wonderful things at just 20 watts. When people talk about ChatGPT has come, it's wonderful. AI has come in. And I work with fractal analytics. It's just last month, Forrester Research has come in, ranking us again as the #1 data analytics and AI company in the world. And I, when people speak about ChatGPT, which of course even I speak a lot about it, but I also remind them, what power that these supercomputers work at in order to churn all the data and work on it. That's about 200,000 kilowatts is what it does to write that poem or do those things around there. And here is something God created long, long back called the human brain. That does not just writing poems, jumps around, does all the things that artificial general intelligence, which AI is trying to do, has been incorporated in this place for the last 600 million years. And it works at just 20 watts. 20 watts. Now, when you say that machines will overtake human brain and all that, hold on. There was a time when air travel was seen as brilliant. We should travel fast. And there are times when I used to travel to the US 3 times in a month because I hate being there. As soon as the meetings are over, I come back and go back. And the guys used to ask me. But today, my company and others says, Biju, don't travel because there's carbon footprint of air travel is considered. Now, if the carbon emission footprints of AI is taken into consideration vis-a-vis the human being, I can assure you, a lot of these conversations you have will not happen. That's a completely divergent perspective. All that I just want to mention to you is when we try to study human behavior, whenever I'm going to speak to you or subsequently, is all coming in from the understanding of that algorithm that is actually happening between, algorithm that is sitting between your ears called the human brain. And it has a problem. That means the reward systems of it are fully active by 11 and 12, which is puberty, but the control systems, the prefrontal cortex, is fully mature only by about 24, so that 13, 14 years of that life, it's a complete mismatch and there are problems. So a lot of problems that we face with the youth of today is a biological problem. It's a neuroscientific problem. That's the first thing I want to tell you about. The second thing I want to talk to you about is, since Ashley also mentioned that I will speak about sex, because sex is everywhere. First of all, let me tell you, it's actually one of the most beautiful things God has created. I think for the last year or so, I've been Shamshabad diocese. I've been taking a session for the people, the pre-marriage course. So some of you, whenever you get married, will be listening to me. In Kalyan diocese, I've been taking that session for the last 15 years, and I speak a lot to them about it because. As I said, that's a wonderful thing. And I've been married for 28 years and I know how wonderful sex is. But there's a time for it, and there's something that you need to really know about it. And I do tell them in the pre-marriage course about how to have a very enjoyable and wonderful sex life. And with that, so I'm not against sex at all. I just love it. It's an integral part of a married life. So with that perspective, I just wanted to take you into the world of sex. Now, I remember the Cardinal of Mumbai knew some few years back what I was doing, and he said, "Biju, can you help Father Cajetan of the Bombay Archdiocese a research that he was doing on trying to understand the youth and their attitude to sex and all that?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, His Excellency, I'll do that." And I became part of that particular work. And one of the most surprising finding, and this is before COVID. And I'm sure the numbers have dramatically changed, and I know for sure that's the truth. And the study showed that 47% of the kids have started really seeing porn. I mean, watching, about sex and other things, obviously from pornography, when they were in the 5th standard. So I've been telling His Excellency and a whole lot of fathers saying that stop talking about it, and not even talking about it. And then let's talk about it in 11th, or let's talk about only in the 12th. And that be the time we can tell kids about all these things. First of all, we speak. I said, what? They'll teach you a whole lot of things by this one because they've been watching it all day. Now, but the difference between the previous generation, like mine and yours is, I saw the image of what a woman's sexual organ looks like. How does an intercourse happen? When I was doing my engineering. Until then, we used to have all the porn magazines. Of course, I used to read porn magazines those days. I'm not justifying it, but I'm just telling you the truth of what I was. So I was not a saint. I grew up like any other teenagers. And it was black and white Malayalam magazines is what we were available for us to read porn. And that didn't give any real proper pictures, very badly printed things. But the first time I saw what pictures of this looks like is when I was about 18 and 19. Now, what's so peculiar about it is in the previous generation, we started seeing these things much after we had hit puberty and much closer to what the government would actually say. Just because I'm producing sperm on a regular basis or girls are producing egg on a monthly basis, the government says you just can't become a father or a mother. You need to reach an emotional age. And the men is 21, the girls are 18, which government is now planning to move to 21. Now, the previous generation saw these images for the first time when we were much closer to our emotional age, definitely gone past our puberty days across there. But the biggest problem that we're facing with today's generation is that the kids are watching these images. They should not be watching because they have no clue what that's all about much, much earlier. And that is a very significant problem because that's where the technology is. And with the COVID bringing in, making sure there is a mobile phone in your hand. Today, my study says 100% of you, 100% of you would have seen a porn clip at some time or the other. So I'm not sitting here by saying, oh, you're all not. Neither am I saying you're all bad boys, bad girls because you're doing it. Now, I'm taking it for the fact that you've seen it. Now, but one of the things when I speak to the youth and most of the school kids, for example, one of them, they say, Uncle, I want to really study hard and I want to get a good job. I really want to prepare. Mama and Papa thinks I'm very lazy and all that. But Uncle, I'll tell you the truth because he's writing on a sheet of paper anonymously. He's telling me the truth. And he says, Uncle, once I sit down to study, then I take the mobile phone and I look at it. And then I see all those images. Then I find it very difficult to concentrate on my studies. That is the problem, Uncle. What should I do? Now, when our generation addictions meant smoking, drinking, drugs was not that available, but ganja was available across Kerala. So those were the addictions around. Even now, if I take drugs, which is obviously very, very significant as compared to what in the previous times, Government of India studies, which clearly show you will be about 20% is what is someone who's doing it. And someone who's really addicted to that will be a much smaller percentage of that. But to me, the biggest problem from an addiction point of view is pornography. Now, the biggest problem with pornography as a problem is if I take smoking or drinking or even drugs, there is something called biological satiability. Satiability means somewhere there's a stopping of it. The body itself says, if you take one cigarette, your chance of taking the next cigarette could be after 1, 2, 3 hours. Until then, he says, oh, enough, there's more than enough. Or I take one shot alcohol, 1, 2, 3 packs, I just fit, then I have to get up to have my next pack, which is, oh, enough of ethyl alcohol. The body can't take anything more. So the body puts a sort of a stop on you. Now, the problem with pornography is it can go on and on and on, and parents are not there, no one is at home, nothing to do, let me go and do it. The same thing is that, just Surgeon General. Surgeon General is the most important medical, warnings in the US are given by it. So along with pornography, Surgeon General just about a month back has given problem and said, games. It's a huge problem. It is addictive. And I think it's creating a problem. He's given a warning. Earlier Surgeon General warning on seriously on the cigarette pack, because that was then the significant, the addiction of that time. But Surgeon General says it's the pornography, it's the games that is creating the problems out there. So now and I wish I can go in detail, but I won't have time. But I just want to tell you, my biggest issue today is not just that you are seeing images of porn and watching that, but there's a very big significant difference again between the previous generation and I. For us those days, we used to call it blue films, and it used to come in VHS cassettes. And in our youth, when I was 17 and 18, watching a blue film was an event, because for that you need a house with a TV and a VCR player. Only very rich people had it. And very, very few people then, just one among the whole gang had it. And that too, it is kept in the living room. That means you need a day, a time when no one is at home, which was so rare. You can well imagine how difficult it was for us to watch a blue film those days. It was rare. And it was rare. But today, because there are millions and millions of sites that you can go to and watch porn. So the availability is rampant around there. Now, it's also because drinking, and smoking and watching porn, or even buying a porn magazine, you had to go to a shop and buy it out there. It was very easy for the parents to control us. It's because those temptations were out in the open. It was very easy for parents to make sure, because once they're in the living room, no one watches the porn, because the TV and the VCR is in the living room. But the biggest difference that has happened between the previous generation and today is that for the first time, my daughter can say, Papa, I'm in the bathroom. She can go to the bathroom and key in whatever she wants to watch. And for the first time, the temptations are in your privacy. Your parents can't do anything to stop you, unlike the previous generation. The whole control is with you. And we used to say until now, character is what you are in the dark. The truth is that the previous generation, including my generation, we were never in the dark. Even when we went 20, 25 kilometers away from home and reached, say, nearest town in Kerala, there will always be someone who knows you. They will inform your parents much before you have done something. You sat in a India coffee house and had a smoke or whatever. Before you reach home, the news will reach you. Or you entered a bar and had a beer. Before you get out of it, the news will reach. Your mom was sitting there and having a beer. Because, as I said, it was out there. But that, what I call the extended family that was all around you, we were scared of them. And I think we grew up as good boys and good girls. But for the first time, I think your generation is growing up all alone. And I think you need to be aware of that. But for the first time, your generation is where you are in the dark all alone, with no one to watch over you, no one to control you. The only people who can control you, you need to take a call in terms of what should I do or what I should not do. It's up to you. And that's why the responsibility of being a youth today is much more than when it was being a youth in my generation. So coming back to the porn part of it, when we used to watch that, those VHS cassettes, they were all actors, and we never had an Indian. So was coming in much later, when I was doing my MBA days and all. Hey, there's an Indian videos coming. It was rare. It was otherwise it was all some foreign models sitting there, some director saying action, okay, and then doing something around there, and we all were ogling into it. But today, now I study this a lot. I speak to the police officers of this country about these, and I take sessions with them around. The biggest change in pornography today, a whole lot of porn today are nothing to do with acting. They're not acting. This is before the actors to begin. The boyfriend has already kept the camera behind the books, and the act begins, and the whole thing is being recorded out there. It is live, acting by real life people. Yes, abject cheating by the boyfriend. There's no doubt about it. But that is exactly what you'll see out there. Second, I know in our days when we had partners or when we were trying to fall in love and all that, we used to write so-called love letters and we used to transfer. And in my case, all the time, they I could never, no girl ever said yes to me in this one. So I was all that finally arranged marriage. My parents had to get me this wonderful woman I married. Complete failure. But okay, I completely missed my thought. So I think there it was actually, sorry, coming back to it, I think the boy is keeping the cameras. But today what happening is part of your affection, part of showing this one there are boys who tell her, Eddie, I want to see you always. Can you send me some video of yours? Can you send me your image? Buttons I want to just see you. And it just slightly extends. And he said he will break up the relationship if he doesn't. So send me a far more explicit photograph. So you go to the bathroom and take a selfie, and then, okay, please don't show it to anyone. Huh? Please don't do. But maybe he doesn't. But I can tell you, if I see the porn scene today, the number of naked pictures of women, they're all selfies. And no woman wants to send that image out there, because in our case, as I said, you write a love letter. None of the girls I send the love letters kept those love letters. They all are much married and gone away. Because forgetting was an integral part of our generation. But internet does not forget. Once an image gets in the internet and someone downloads it onto their computer or the mobile phone, you can't do anything about it. So you need to be very, 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 very careful when you send those images. And let me tell one truth to all the girls listening to me. If there is a man, even if he's going to marry you, and even if he has promised to marry you, but he's pushing the envelope further and further and expecting your pictures and expecting you to go and sleep with him and all that to reinforce the relationship, he is taking advantage of you. He is not respecting you. He is not respecting you. So in no time, within 1 week, some few months, and then all that, and then let's start it on, all happens. He's pushing you into it. He's not respecting you. He's taking advantage of your insecurity of wanting to have a relationship, and he's taking advantage of it. He can see it in your eyes that you are very insecure, that you're desperately trying to cling on to this relationship somehow, or like a straw. And when you're that desperate, guys will take advantage of you. And in that process, whatever you do, I can tell you, is not just for the short term that he'll walk away, but he'll walk away with a whole lot of images. Once the policeman tells me, when your mobile phone is lost, One of the first things these guys who get the mobile phones and do is, are there any images that I can actually take from here? Is what they do. That's why a lot of these images actually get into the internet. So my advice, the issue today is not that people are watching the porn. I think that people are acting in the porn inadvertently. And that to me is the biggest issue. And when I see those images, they are not even removed the rosary from their neck while the photographs or whatever is happening around there. They're all our kids. They're all our kids. And I just hope that those kids don't know that their images are out there. So please, just keep away. Now, as far as the porn is concerned, I just want to tell you one thing. It is artificial. That's not what sex is. Sex, as I said, is one of the most beautiful things. When you come in, I say sex is something where you enjoy it. And the best sex life of yours is not going to happen on the first night and first week and first month and all that. You need to know your partner, the whole, the physicality of that particular person, right from the toe to the head. As Prakash Kotari would always be, he's a leading sexologist in India, would tell you, sex has got very little to do with what is between your legs. I'm repeating, sex has got very little to do with what is between your legs. And if you read Kama Sutra, which you should, and I think you realize that you need to understand it's all about the whole body, right from the toe to the head, and how the relationship for each of them really matters. But much more than that, it's not the physical thing. It is an emotional part. And mostly for the girls, you need to be emotionally really close to that particular person. And for the guy, to make sure you need to understand the moods, the emotions of the people, for you to really have a wonderful physical relationship that takes you to a much bigger high. But that is going to happen not in 5 minutes of rushing into before, the neighbor comes or whatever, go and do it. It is not a quickie affair. It's something that takes years. It's something for which, hey, has the watchman seen me coming into the house? Is it something else? With all that anxiety, you do something between it. You just don't, nothing is an act. And then tick mark it up. I did it. But you are developing a completely wrong perception about such a beautiful thing. And for you to enjoy, you should be relaxed. That partner that is with you, the society, the parents and others, that's your partner for life in marriage. Go ahead, go and do whatever you want in your bedroom. With that relaxation, when you go and do it, is where you really, really enjoy into that particular act. So what you see on that sex is not what it is. The other bigger issue that happens with a lot of the people's insecurity and most of this one, the body image that you develop, not just on Instagram, it's from the porn, because these images are telling you this is the way a human body should be. This should be the size of the sexual organs. Mine is too small. Mine, I think I have a problem. I think I have a this one there. A whole lot of insecurities are coming into your body. And all the girls are thinking all those broomstick looking, legs are what beauty is. It is not. But these develops a very wrong perception about what is beauty is. When God said, I have made you in my own image, I think there is a level at which you need to accept the physicality. But at this age, when you're 17 and 18, you should look at my photographs when I was 17 and 18. And my daughter asked my wife, Amme, they engane iyala ketti. You are looking so yuck in that. Now, I think I've obviously grown up as I grew up in my confidence in my career. Obviously, I developed a thicker mush and a look. Today I'm not bad. I'm not too bad. Maybe I'm not too bothered about it. But the point is that this 16, 17, 18 is not the way you're going to. You're going to develop. You're going to develop. And I think your body reaches a certain amount of maturity when you again some 25, 26, 27 is where you really are. Physically, you're going to be much more mature about it. But again, I think it's a developing, ongoing process. And every part of the body will have its own sizes. But that has nothing to do with your overall beauty. Beauty is what you believe you to be. If you think you are beautiful, if you believe you're beautiful, then you're beautiful. And I can tell you, I worked with leading models and film stars in Mumbai when I was in my advertising days. I can tell you, you think all those people are very confident because that's the pictures you see and all that. I see their life. They're so insecure. I've seen Miss world, and I don't want to mention names across there. They're so scared to walk out and just meet me for some business discussions without putting up all the makeups and other things. They're so insecure. And I can tell you the so-called beautiful people, oh, such a thing, they'll be so confident. They're not. So that world that you see on the beauty and fashion is a completely fake world. So don't go by it by saying, oh, I'm not that fair. I'm not that tall. I'm not that slim. I'm not that. No, move it away. Same as when coming back to the sex part of it. I think it gives you a feeling they're all actors chosen among all the other people because they want to create it. That's right. So don't get by the artificial world of sex that has been created by the porn world. And right now, if you're a student and others, I think it's not what you should be sitting and focusing on. Your studies and focusing on is actually far more important about it. But make sure you don't act in it. Now, anyone who's asking you for your intimate pictures is taking advantage of you. Never. Walk out on the relationship today. If anyone is asking, just today, just walk out on it. And if someone is, trying to threaten you, inform your parents about it and put a police complaint against it. That's it. And that's the only way these guys will ever understand, that you mean business about it. So coming to the point, I just want to mention, oops, I think time is completely running away. And the second I want to talk about is something of premarital sex. Because, when in our times, it was very, very difficult. Opportunities are not there, so that extended families all around you. But the biggest issue at that point of time was mostly girls who were really scared that if I do something, I might miss a date and then I might get pregnant. But I think the biggest lesson today is, and you all of you know that, the day after pills are there today. And the sale of the day after pill today, I was just doing that study before today morning talks, is about 1,000 crores. That's so rampant. And first of all, usage of that is definitely, I know people today say, oh, I think I missed the date after the act. Well, let me take one, pop one. But it's about, and you know how much this day you go to the medical store and buy it, but it's affecting your system. The bleeding and the internal system is completely playing around with it. So one is medically, that is not really the way to go about it. This unwarranted, abortions equivalents at this age by throwing in the day after pill is not the way to go about your system. It will have long-term consequences about it. But why do I say that, you should walk to the altar as a virgin? Since I mentioned that sex is such a wonderful thing, I said, why am I saying it? Because let me tell now to the girls, it's an animal kingdom rule. A lion enters a lioness den for the first time. And in that, this one, the lion sees the lioness has some cups from some previous relationships. And I think what it will do is that first will kill all the cubs before mating the lioness. Only then the lion will mate the lioness. Why? It's an animal kingdom. There is a fish called the sickleback fish, for which studying that, I think Tim Bergen won the Nobel Prize in biology called supernormal stimuli. And what is it? The male fish has a red color. Any other male fish, sickleback, sees any red color anywhere, go and attack. Because no male likes another, likes a female who's sleeping with another male. It's a competition between male. So whenever you continue like Thursday, and then you go and tell your husband, before marriage, I did it. You think your husband will ever, however broad-minded he is, he's going to say, wow, great, tell me more about it. But I can tell you seal the end of your marriage life on that day. That's why I have obviously serious discussions about it when you come for your pre-marriage course. But I just want to tell you one thing. No male, yes, no male in any kingdom, any animal kingdom likes it. And human beings are not different. So by allowing and you doing it before, I think there is a problem. Now, I know one other thing. Now, I know in your youth, I don't think I'll have time today, I speak about love marriage versus arranged marriages. And I say why that's an arranged marriage. But all of you would say, uncle, marriage means I need to understand the partner very well. You should have intimate understanding. Where does intimate understanding? What is the best way to do? I live as husband and wife for about a few months. That's called live-in relationship. So you're literally living. And so understand each other very, very well, including the body odor and everything that you have. And then you go and get married. So that's the highest level of understanding. The next is, of course, love marriage. You speak to that person for a few hours every day, or 1 hour you meet in college, and love marriage. And then there is the third type of marriage called arranged marriage. അവിടെ വന്നിട്ട് ചായ കൊടുത്തിട്ട് okay, the parent, and you think arranged marriage is that, which it is not. But you will say, no, uncle, how can I marry and all that? But I wish I had time, I'll explain it. But the point I just want to mention is divorce. Now I take data. Now you can see this. What the divorce rates in live-in relationship is the highest. The live-in followed by love marriage. Arranged marriages have the least number of divorce rates. But the divorce rates in all the three are going up, continues to go up. There's no doubt about it. But there's one segment where the divorce rates are in single digits and are going down further. I mean, the divorce rate in that segment is further going down. And what is that? But before that, I have to ask you another question. Ragging is banned in every other educational institution in the world. But ragging is not banned in one educational institution in the world, and that is in the army units. And I was taking a session for all the top 50 army officers, brigadiers and above, when General Rawat was there. And I asked him, do you know, sir, what's the science behind you have hazing in NDA? When a junior guy comes in for 6 months, you're always slapping him. He said, no, Biju, that's part of our ritual. So there's a science behind it. I know how many of you know which to get what job. I know I'm using the word purposely within quotes, that you need to study for the most number of years. To become an engineer, you study for 4 years. To become a doctor, you study with MD for about 6 years. But the job for which you study for the most number of years is to become a Catholic priest. Father Gino has become a priest after 12 to 14 years. Why? Now, there's a theology and philosophy and I tell them, I said, do you know the science? Open heart surgery, you can do it after 6 years, after studying. Now, don't tell me your job of being a priest is more complex than this. But there's a science where in army there is ragging. In church, we ask them to study for 12 to 14 years. The science is that if there's any goal that you have, if the path to the goal is tough, few are the people who can take it up, and not few, a lot will drop out. But the people who reach the goal, the commitment to the goal will become very, very strong. So the way to build any job for which the commitment to that cause is very, very high, intense, is to make the path difficult. And that's why all the pilgrimage places are on top of the mountains, is to increase your commitment. Now, how do you make sure the commitment that you have to that relationship that you will get into with a partner in marriage is strong? Right now, as I said, yes, with parents being away, you working away from home, having a premarital sex without anyone knowing, unlike in our generation, is easy. You can do it. But you say, Devam will find some idiot for me in life. Avanu vendi, I'm just keep holding on. And I know you said, no, I will keep it. It's a little, this one that I have for the partner who will come into my life. I know it's difficult, but every time you take the difficult job, your commitment to that institution called marriage goes up. And I think studies are showing that those people who decided to remain a virgin and then walk into married life, their marriage stability is much higher than those people who did not. So my request to you is, from a biological point of view, from an overall understanding of the sex point of view, which is that it's not been done in few hours, it's there, wait until marriage. Walk to the altar as a virgin. And then once you know that, and once society, obviously get into something which is really, really wonderful about it. So that's the reason why I'm requesting you to walk and keep away from premarital sex, and then because I really want you to enjoy your sex life, enjoy your married life, and then keep away. So that's the second point I want to bring in. But I think suddenly, between no time, I just want to move to the third part of it, which is I know love marriage was arranged marriage. All that I can tell you is there are people like Sheena Iyengar, Art of Choosing. You'll find a book. She's from Columbia Business School, the world's authority on choosing anything. You will find an article by her, and I have subsequently written about it, why arranged marriage decision making is actually far superior to you choosing it. But lack of time, I'm not going to discuss today. So let me move to the third one. The third one is about addictions overall. I just want to tell you, when smoking, drinking, and something else happened, I think, yeah, they were trying to create nicotine and cigarette advertising and all that, and I was part of that industry for about 17 years in my first part of my career. We used to create advertising and used to make you addicted to those particular things, liquor and beer and all that. But today I can tell you, addiction, as I said, is a neurobiological thing with dopamine being released. Today, there are experts like me who study the human brain, who actually work with those companies, the gaming companies. So in the games the person is playing, the algorithms are catching you. Is that person winning too often? And winning too often, they know this guy will get bored. So they'll make him fail. They'll increase the intensity of the game. Or this guy is failing again, so he's still learning it. He's going to drop out. No, they will suddenly give him a winning option, and suddenly he's winning. So the algorithms using artificial intelligence is keeping a tab on everything you do. There might be a thick book that you'll see called Addictions by Design. And that is how casinos are designed. The sound, the lighting, where no outside light comes in. I know those you've seen. It's all scientifically decided to get you addicted to what you're doing. That means just get you hooked on to what you do on others from there. And it's a scientific process which is doing it. So you need to be very, very cautious and trying to get away from it, because the forces are trying to pull you in. And I think you need to really find ways to get out of it. And that's why I think you need to really take, a lot of steps to really move away from a certain amount of de-addictions of the mobile phones and other things. Again, as I said, it's all you're in control. I'm not going to use the mobile phone for next 1 hour. Nothing in the world is going to change the next 1 hour. So okay, let me keep away and let me now sit for the study. So when I'm, like, for example, I never take the mobile phone to the church. Everyone knows. Nothing in the world has happened because I don't take a mobile phone. It's a habit I've created. I leave for 9 o'clock with my mass. 8:30 I leave for my church. I can walk across. Come back 11:30. I do it. Everyone knows. So there's no point in calling Biju. And no one calls me. It's not that I'm with my responsibility also. No one really calls me. It's all our thinking that, people, I need to have the mobile phone always with me because someone will call. No, I was in the church, or I was in the bathroom, or I was reading something, so I couldn't call you. So it's perfectly fine. Walk away from it. But I just want to talk about another very important thing, which is, and this was studied about relationships. And a man called Robin Dunbar, and if you do a search on it, you will find in the internet. Robin Dunbar was the person who looked at our capacity to have relationships. And he said, the real number of people that I can have relationship with whom I can open up. I just want to cry because I'm really down. I'm really heartbroken for whatever. And all of us will have such reasons why, where people to whom we can really open up and speak to is 5. But he said the number of friends, good friends, where you call up, you meet often, you this and there, it's about 15. But the number of friends that you have will be about 50. But the number of people that you can have an intimate, overall good relationship is 150. And then after that, they're all called the weak ties. Pinay, I know. Okay. Which is the acquaintances, your weak friends around. Now, the interesting thing is Robin Dunbar worked these numbers before the world of the social media. But when social media came in, people wanted to see if this numbers change. And they found it remained the same. Does not change because this is based on the cognitive capacity of the human brain. And that is why right from, the Roman Empire days across, the army units never more than 150. Because, no one in the army dies for the country. They die and walk across to the guys and face the bullets because there is this colleagues I am protecting. And they die for the unit. And that number is always 150. That our ancestors in the evolutionary days was not more than 30, 40 people. 50 people is where the groups of people who went nomadic hunting around was 50. Our generation, just about a month back, I think 14 of us met in Cananore. And this was Mayan, his daughter was getting engaged. And these are 14 of us who've been good friends for the last 40 years since we were in our engineering college. Every time my wife and daughter hears me, okay, almost 2 weeks we have, they are all CEOs and others and all there. But the way we sit and, Biju, you were trying to putter that girl, I know what happened. And my wife says, you laugh so much when that meeting, why can't you not laugh and smile when me and my daughter? But I think between those 13, 14 of us, even today, we are 17, 18-year-old guys in Trivandrum Engineering College. We just go back to that. But there is a friendship. When one of them died and his daughters had to be married, we married off his daughter because that bonding that we had cried each other's shoulders. Even now, when I have a problem, I can call one of them, I'm really feeling down. But older generation, we had that thickness. But today, the biggest issue that is happening is that your generation, 35% of you don't even have one person to talk to, an intimate friend to whom you can open your heart to. And that is a significant problem. Your generation, with all the social media and all those there, you are the loneliest generation ever. And one of the most significant problems that are happening with addictions and drug addictions, and people say, oh, the government cut down the supply, make sure the drugs. Now, I've been telling my columns for this from there. War and drugs was taken up by Nancy Reagan, president's wife in America, making sure the drug lords of Colombia and Mexico don't push the drugs across the border in the United States. United States has the most powerful army in the world, the most sophisticated systems to make sure that drugs don't move in across the corner. Just about a month or two back, I think New Yorker and New York Times wrote an article saying the war on drugs in America has failed completely. Now, if the most powerful government in the world has not managed, or let me put it, the drug lords are more powerful in supplying drugs to the world than the most powerful government. India government is nowhere compared to that in terms of law enforcement. So trying to curtail this problem on the supply side is an almost impossible task. And I've been telling the church and I've been telling everyone, and I'm telling you, the youth leaders, this problem has to be dealt at the demand side. I studied girl trafficking, for example. Girls are pushed. Okay, there's a supply side. But there's a demand side where men go for paid sex. Now, how do you stop them? If men don't go for paid sex and there's no demand for, women, obviously none of those girls will be pushed away from the villages in West Bengal or in 24 Parganas. So any problem can be studied at the supply side or on the demand side and curtail. And so the way to curtail your drug problem is to go understand, why do kids get into drugs? Kids predominantly get into drugs because they don't have social connections. When I have connections, when I have friends, when I want to sit down there, I don't get in. And studies have enough shown it. So the best way to make sure your colleagues and you yourself don't get in is create connection. And my request to you is, when you have youth, when you have as many picnics as possible, have friends, just develop. More so in your graduate days and college days and all that. These are the times, one, you should study. I'm not denying it, but I think these are the times where you should find some of the best friends of your life. People with whom you can rest upon for your strength right through your life. And my request to you, the youth leaders who are listening to me, is to allow the people to develop connections. And creating connections and strong friendship, physical. That's why I was requesting you to switch on the cameras. It's a very different one when I look into your eyes and say, I'm there with you. Eddie, don't give up. I'm there. And put an arm around her and say, Eddie, don't worry. I know it's difficult moments, but I'm there. We are there with you. Adaru strength, adaru connection. That's exactly what you need to develop. And one more thing I just want to tell you before I open up for questions is it's a trend that I've been studying for the last about 10 to 11 years, if not more. And that's the data that comes to me every year. in the Kerala state government when they give the budget. So there is an economic survey, and one chapter of it is in higher education. So it shows the number of kids who are in 10th standard, boys and girls. So 10th standard is 50.2% are boys and 49.8% are girls. Now, when it comes to graduation, today I asked a question. Yesterday I was with the Chief Secretary of Kerala, Dr. Venu, and I asked Dr. Venu. I said, Dr. Venu, what is the percentage of boys in graduate in Kerala? He said, Biju, close to 50%. I said, no, we have a problem. The number of boys who are in graduates in Kerala and studying for graduation in Kerala today is only 32 to 35%. The only stream in which boys are slightly higher than girls is actually engineering. But there is a problem. The pass percentage of girls in engineering are 3 times more than boys. So at graduate levels, 50% in 10th standard, almost higher than girls. But by the time graduation comes in, girls are already 65 to 68%. Post-graduation, just 25 to 28% of the people studying for post-graduation today are boys. There's a huge widening gap between the education levels of our boys and our girls. The Kerala Mallu girls are doing far better than the Mallu boys. And I know today there is already a trend where these girls are studying hard. IELTS എഴുതി നഴ്സിംഗ് പഠിച്ച് UK പോകുന്നു. അവിടെ അതിന്റെ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും ചാവറയിലോ മറ്റോടത്തോ ഒരു കൊടുക്കുന്നു UK നേഴ്സ്, ഇവിടെ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുക നമ്മുടെ അണ്ണന്മാര് പയ്യന്മാര്. എടാ പിന്നെ അവള് UK നേഴ്സ്, റെഡി, വരുന്നു, ഐ എം റെഡി, ഞാൻ പിള്ളേരെ നോക്കിയോ. And a lot of guys go there. And my daughter did her master's in London. So whenever I used to go to meet her, I used to also meet my neighbors and all from നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ. So I go to the houses. ആദ്യം ഒന്നും പറയും, പിന്നെ എല്ലാം അടിപൊളിയുടെ സുഖമാണ്, കാർ all they talk me about the cars and this that all have. പിന്നെ രണ്ട് പെഗൊക്കെ അടിച്ചു കഴിയുമ്പം സത്യങ്ങൾ വരും. എടാ ഒരു രക്ഷയില്ലടാ. And these are all people who had reasonable jobs and all in Kerala. എടാ എല്ലാ ആഴ്ചയിലും she gives me 5 pound. Okay. കഴിഞ്ഞ ആഴ്ച അവന്മാരെല്ലാം കൂടെ വന്നു. They all came and on Tuesday, and by Tuesday 5 pound തീർന്നു, എല്ലാരും കൂടെ തീർത്തു. അപ്പൊ വെൻസ്ഡേ മോർണിംഗ് രാവിലെ അവള് സാരിയൊക്കെ മാറുമായിരുന്നു. And sorry, whatever putting on dress, I went to her and said, എടി ഒരു 5 pound കൂടെ വേണം. അവൾ അങ്ങോട്ട് തിരിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ചോദിച്ചു, പിന്നെ ഇന്നലെ അങ്ങോട്ട് തന്നല്ലേ ഉള്ളൂ, ഇന്നലെ I gave you all that, പിന്നെ എപ്പോഴും കാശ് തരാൻ വേണ്ടി. And then this guy told me something, Biju, ഞാൻ ഉരുകി പോയടാ. I melted away. The male ego has completely got shattered. The male has been the provider for thousands of years. For the first time, the male has to Eddie 2 pound. His ego is completely hurt. Just the other day when I read the news that in UK, a husband has killed his wife and his 2 daughters. I didn't have to read below there to know what her job is and what his job is. Yes, below said her job is nurse. She's been working and she's been there. And his job, supermarket the Julie. And it's creating huge problems in the mate selection. There are Siro Malabar kids, the girls came and said, Uncle, show me one Siro Malabar boy who earns 10 rupees more than me. Let's be very clear. There is a huge problem. We are hiding it. There is a huge disparity in our education levels. And I think boys, buckle up. Buckle up. You are not going to get mates if you are not going to study. And you need to study. And I think it's a serious issue. And I know in homes, we don't know. Male, what is left with the male is the power, male ego and the physical power. അവിടെ 2 പെഗ് അടിച്ചിട്ട് അവളുടെ കാശ് എടുത്തിട്ട് 5 ഇതെടുത്തിട്ട് വെള്ളം അടിച്ചിട്ട് അവിടെ ആ പാവം പെണ്ണിന്റെ മുതുകത്ത് പോയിടിക്കുക എന്നല്ലാതെ ആ മെയിൽ ഈഗോ വെച്ചിട്ട് വേറെ ഒരു തേങ്ങാക്കൊല ഇവിടെ ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. Domestic violence. And I've been telling our dioceses outside Kerala, outside India, please take note of this. Because it's a senior, because I know how male ego is when it's hurt. The only thing it will do is physical violence. And I think, and it's all coming in from a shattered male ego who can't accept that my wife is better than me. And I think the only option is now to the men is to make sure that you study well and then live up to how the girls are. And as I ending, I just want to mention one more thing about the jobs. I wish I could speak to you more about it. Yes, things are changing. The world is changing, but there are some fundamental shifts that are happening around. When I finished my engineering, there were companies like Shale and BHEL and Coal India and all that. I didn't want to do an engineering job, so I went and did my MBA. But even then, it was much easier because there were these companies hiring in large numbers. And those companies were replaced in the 90s or even 2000s, like Infosys and TCS were also hiring in thousands or in lakhs if need be. But that has fundamentally shifted. And as I said, Fractal Analytics is the world leader in data analytics and artificial intelligence. Last year, we got about 2 lakh applications, and we just took about, I think, 400 people. So, and we are running this world leadership with about 5,000 people. The number of people, like signed, the head of HR is a good friend of mine. They have about 10,000 employees, and they're not looking to explore it because with artificial intelligence coming in, all the routine jobs which can be done on a routine basis will be taken up by the machine. So this jobs and searching, and I know we're a PSC job, a government job, please, that's over. Now you need to be ready for you be an entrepreneur. You have to create your job. So trying to study so that I can join a company and then go and have a relax. Oh, a PSC job, a government job, relax. Now you are on the wrong track. And I think entrepreneurship is the future. And I think Malayalis are very poor at that. I think when I go speak at IIT Madras or IIT Bombay, for example, and the number of kids who say, Uncle, I don't want to join, sir. I just want to, can you tell me, I have an idea. Can you tell me how to build a company? And that's exactly what your youth movement has to focus on. It's not about another PSC job and how to prepare for a PSC job, government job. It is all about how do you develop entrepreneurship among your friends. So there's a fundamental shift. I wish I could speak more about it. So as I'm ending here, so that I at least have some time for your questions, I just want to tell you that there is a biological problem. Your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And I think, so the control systems, you have to control yourself. And unlike the previous generation, there's no one who's around you to tell you that's wrong, don't do that, don't smoke. It's the whole control is in your hand. All alone, you have to decide. And with that mobile phone in your hand, yes, you can sit and watch all that porn there. Now, don't do it, sit and study. And also just make sure that when there are boyfriends who call up and say, send those pictures and all that, you being pulled into to act in those porn films. Don't do that. And all those bad images, those images that you see are influencing your body image. Don't do it. That's an artificial world. Just respect the body the way God has created you and just love that. And that's what you need to do that. I think sex is wonderful. It's one of the most beautiful things God has created. But I think there is a relaxed mindset and a certain deeper preparation, understanding of the partner, consent of the partner. All that is very, very important. And that comes through the institutional marriage the way today is. It's not something to be rushed in to do it, just I've done it sort of thing. And it creates its own set of problems. But I think it also builds commitment by saying that for that person, God will find for me in life. I think I'll hold on. And I think that builds in. So walk to the altar as a virgin and obviously enjoy a wonderful and sex life after that. But premarital sex, slightly keep away. The other is addictions. There's a force that's really trying to get you addicted. I wish I could speak more about it, but I think be aware of it. You guys are the loneliest generation ever. Now, I think build connections. Because you need people to open up to and cry if you want, because a lot of problems like suicidal tendencies and depressions and all are coming in predominantly because you don't have connections. And I think the youth leaders, the church, parish priest, if anyone who's listening to me, I would say all the jobs, responsibility you have is to create more and more connections so that there are a lot of friendships that gets developed. And in that process, you get some genuine good friends with you. there is a widening education levels between the Malu boys and the Malu girls. So Malu boys, buckle up, buckle up. Otherwise, in the marriage market, you're just not going to get boys. Sorry, your partners. Let's be very clear about it. You can't talk about love jihad and other things and blame every other religion and everything. The problem's with you because you guys, because mate selections across all animal kingdom is based on not just that he can produce more offspring, will that person be able to take care of the offspring that he will produce? It is a decision on which all animals and birds and human women take a decision on their mate selection. Is your capacity to take care of the offspring. That's a universal rule of nature, and you need to be ready to face up to it. There's a fundamental shift that's happening in with the job market. It's gone. The big companies are all over. AI is taking away all the routine jobs that could be done, whether it's a lawyer, the others, a lot of the radiologists, a lot of jobs will go away. You need to be prepared with it, mostly by developing, thinking of new ideas and developing, being an entrepreneur. That's the future. These and more are some of the new modern problems that you need to encounter. I wish I could spend a bit more time, but since I said I'll end at 9 o'clock, I will end as my talk is over. I'm willing to sit and answer any number of questions you guys have. I'm there, but thank you for this opportunity. Any questions, please go ahead.
Guys, it's now the question and answer session. You can clear all your doubts and tabs.
മലയാളത്തിലോ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലോ ഹിന്ദി മാത്രം ചോദിക്കരുത്. എനിക്ക് ഹിന്ദി വളരെ പൂർവ്വം. ബാക്കി മലയാളത്തില് ചോദിച്ചോ ധൈര്യമായിട്ട്. ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലോ ഈ രണ്ട് ലാംഗ്വേജിലോ ധൈര്യമായിട്ട് ചോദിച്ചു.
Okay, sir, I do have a question. Is it good to for a girl to tell the boy about her menstrual cycle?
Yeah. Let him know there's something called menstruation, because a lot of guys don't know anything about women's sexuality. And let the boys also know that those 3-4 days of your life, it's hormonal changes. You will not be in a normal mood. What happens? Why are you not talking to me? Machambi, there are much bigger problems happening downstairs. You just leave me for some time, So I think guys just understand there is something called a menstrual cycle a girl goes through. Not just you, your mother and all of them go through. And in that hormonal changes, she's just not in a good mood. It just affects her hormonal and the moods part of it. And don't expect her to be, and she will be irritated. She will be angry, more than usual. Just understand the biological process of a woman. And that's the way you treat and you respect her. And that's important.
Hey, I have a question. Am
Go
I
ahead,
audible
Rose.
enough?
Yeah, Rose. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, just like we've asked the women to take some precautions regarding spreading your personal pictures to someone who asked it, be it a friend or be it the anonymous person. But I don't think it's just women. There are many men who also fall into that trap. isn't it? We should actually ask the men to be cautious too.
Yes and no, because there is actually a fundamental difference between women pornography, pornography that men watches and pornography that women watches. And
Okay.
so if you look at what men prefers to watch is obviously the naked pictures of women, and
Well,
that's what men do. And I think because of that, when men when they speak to their partners and others, one of the tendencies to actually ask for pictures of females. And so if you look at the porn world, you'll find pictures of women all around. But I don't know how now look at yourself. I often ask the boys, I said, what is the porn that the women watch? And I ask the boys, and even the pre-marriage course, I ask them, what do you think the girls are sitting and watching with all the men with big penis and ogling at that? It's not. The biggest, because there is a fundamental difference. Because in sexuality, male sexuality is very physical. That's why there's Viagra for men. There's no Viagra for women. Why?
well,
Pfizer,
we're not talking about pornography. We're talking about
yeah.
human
Yes, I'm coming to. I'm coming to that, Rose. I'm just building up because I just wanted to do that. Yeah.
Cool.
The reason is that there is a fundamental difference in sexuality. For men, men's sexuality is very physical. And that's how Pfizer, they were working on something. They found that the blood went to the penis of people and they got sexually aroused. And suddenly Viagra, the product, was developed. As soon as it developed and became such a $1 billion product, Pfizer said, let's create one for women. And said, let's send blood to the clitoris of the women. And women tested it and say, I'm feeling some tingling feeling between my legs, but nothing is happening. And that's when they dropped the whole project, because women get excited, not at a physical level. Women get excited, and your biggest turn on is romance. Your biggest porn magazine is actually Mills and Boons.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry, I ended and I'll listen to you.
Okay.
The reason why women don't seek, it's all demand supply. Man, can I see your picture? Can I send me this? There's no demand for it. So if you look at the porn world across there, men sending their pictures, intimate pictures of their sexual organs and others are far and few as compared to the women who've been asked to do it. It's because women are not too interested in seeing pictures of men's pictures. Yes, Rose, go ahead. That's why you have a difference. You were saying something, Rose.
That is cool, but there are chances that women do it too. We are not supposed to deny the fact that women want it as much as men do. We're all humans in general, and we've got the same thing, actually, the feelings, be it emotions. It's not different or something like that. If imagine, just let's assume, put myself here, because it would be wrong to put someone else there. Assume I'm a guy, and I've asked a woman friend of mine, a lady of mine, a friend of mine, to send in few pictures of hers naked. That will be just like you spoke. But if I am a woman, and if I ask a guy friend of mine, maybe he might send it too. Isn't it the same thing?
The question I ask as soon as when we discuss broader things around there, we have to look at the trends. For how many men who ask for the pictures of this one, how many women are asking? I'm not saying no one asks for it. Maybe there would be, and men might be sending it. But men also, I know, are very, very insecure about the sizes of their sexual organ, mostly because of the porn industry. And Indian men have obviously much smaller sexual organs compared to the Western one. And that he's trying to show it off by sending it is very unlikely. Are there people who do it? Are the women actually seeking it? My answer is no, because the fundamental construct of the women's sexuality is not there. She's seeking far more emotional relationship in her sexuality than that. And the book that I would recommend for you to read about the porn behavior is a book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. So what it has done is like data, not anecdotal. It has taken data of the porn viewing habits of thousands and thousands of people and have analyzed it. So do have a look at that book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. And that would give you a good understanding between the porn behavior of men and the porn behavior of women. And a lot of it has been based on it. And also a lot has been based on my own studies with the Indian police on the porn structure that is there on the Indian scenes across there. There are far more naked pictures of women there because there's demand for it. There are far less pictures of naked men there because there's far less demand for it.
Yeah, all right, I get that. And there's something else I want to talk about. Have you got time?
Of course, I have.
Okay, I'll just take 2 minutes. We were talking about male ego. What do you think? You think women don't have it? You think women have, maybe women have it in a regular, constant mood, maybe, because they just subside that. Isn't because to keep on going with the well-being of the marriage life. Because in every home, just like you said, men do have the upper position, be it financially. But nowadays, just like you mentioned again, nowadays women are earning more. And you've asked men to buckle up. All these years of life, women have been supporting their fellow supportive man, that whom they are married with or to be a good person. And you think the women ego doesn't bother them? Showing the male ego on the top doesn't actually help, because males, the people who actually listen to your meeting right now, they think, oh, it's the man ego. It's something that I have got in general. It's actually normal. People actually talk about it in a very general manner. Well, it's stupid to actually think of the fact that, oh, my wife is earning more. Isn't he supposed to think, oh, my wife is actually earning more? Isn't that great? Women do think that way. Women go out and tell their other womanly friend, saying, dude, you know, my wife, my husband earns a lot. Have you ever heard, just like you said, have you ever heard men going around and saying, my woman, the woman that I have got in my life earns a lot of bucks than I do? It's just male ego. It's just stupid to say that male have got ego, so boys buckle up. It's the basic thing. If you've got interest in buckling up, you will do it for yourself. I don't think someone else has to say it. Women being said that, girls, you gotta buckle up. Yeah, you can talk.
Yeah, Rose, I could see contradictory things around there. First of all, when I said male ego, I think it was very clear. I was talking about the hurt male ego. And I was clearly was saying, yes, women, for all the problems that they had so far, I think they looked after themselves very well, and they are now doing very well. And if you want to see more about what I've been talking about, you can read my columns in Mint, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, when I say male ego, so talking about it, women, are they going around? Yes, women did it, and it's very good. But all that I was saying is the male will not do it. He's not doing it. And that has got its consequences, and you need to be ready for it.
You've got a chance to talk to such people through meetings.
See, I think, Rose, I think the problem is there is something called reality and something called what we would actually expect the good, whatever, the state to be in, such a wonderful thing. If it happens, great. Again, you will find an American study that I have quoted in my Mint column, which is speaking about women in America actually downing her salary, and the men in America actually upping their salaries, because it's a universal problem. There are problems in the world. It's not an idealistic world where, oh, males are they're okay with the lower status and they do it. There's a reaction, and the reaction is not good. When I think I've been watching it ever since in Kerala, there was that actor who was pulled up, and some other people like Parvati Tiruvoth and all stood up. I stood for the women. I said, wonderful. But what I was surprised by the way the men in Kerala reacted. And ever since that is where I started looking at this data. Why are the men so angry? Why are they so piling on to the women who have got their rights? I mean, who are standing up? It's an imperfect world, Rose. And all that I reminded you was an imperfect world. And our homes, I think our women, because physically they're not so powerful, there is a lot more domestic violence. So all that I'm talking about, I don't know whether who I'm defending doesn't, I just talked about stark realities. The women are doing very well, which they continue to do. All my team members in my organization, for example, they're all women. I'm very happy for them. But the male is a hurt guy. And I know when a hurt guy or a hurt animal is actually the most dangerous animal. Now, we need to take care of him. How do we do that? And I think that's the question I raised.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your ego that's building up? Is it
Rose, thanks a lot for the question. Answer means, as Rose said, we are all heading to and thinking the same way, that there should be more gender equality. There's one question that has popped up. If you help me, I'll ask that question.
Sure, go
Even
ahead.
if boys avoid all sexual things, sometimes again when they see girls dressed immodestly, they again get tempted. The spiritual steps to control these emotions, or some other way that you suggest boys they to overcome these situations.
There's nothing called the girls dressing up immodestly. Even if she's in a parda, you will be looking at straight her breast are. Now, don't, Rose, just hold on. I think I've heard you. So I think thank you. Okay. Now, there is nothing called, women have to dress up modestly for things in life. That's why that even if you're a parda, your eyes.
Sir, you're muted.
Okay, sorry, I don't know how it got affected. So I just want to tell you that, don't blame the girls for the dress. And the studies have clearly shown among the rape victim, and my organization is the only one that has studied men who rape and why they rape. This is because she was wearing a revealing clothes, whatever, and all that are completely wrong. It's her churidas and this has been pulled apart, and it's all happened out there. So that is a very wrong perception. Men, you need to know how to deal with women. And yes, there is a natural tendency for you to look at, not her eyes when you're talking. Those are some of the trainings that you need to develop, that you need to learn to look into her eyes and speak. And you should know that no woman likes the man who looks all around when you're talking to her. She just doesn't like it. So you need to know what the other person likes, and you need to deal with it. And you need to develop those, that's the way you respect the other person. And the way you respect that particular person is by respecting her sexuality. And so I think don't ever blame the women for what your wrongs are. And as I said, enough studies have shown, even if the woman is in a parda, there are men whose mind is in the wrong direction, will look in the wrong direction. Otherwise, even if the woman is wearing a bikini and standing there, or if she is standing there, you will still look into her eyes and have a talk with her on the beach. And that's what you should develop yourself to. And it needs that. And I think as part of the youth, that's one of the things where whatever she's doing, learn to how to look in, because respect her. And the way you respect is where you look when you speak to her.
Okay, sir. Thanks. So one last question for the day, and then we'll conclude. One person has asked this question. So you said sex before marriage won't be ethical, but what about makeout? There is a huge majority of youth who are engaging in this stuff and don't really know if it is fine or not.
See, what did I say? Ethical? Ethical is up to Achama to speak. I was speaking the biological part of it. Now, making out and having an intercourse to me is the same. It's just that you didn't have an opportunity to do that. You sit go to a theater and and then do whatever you want to do because you can't really you don't have a bed to do it. That's all. I don't see any difference because, and the Bible also very clearly says whether it's in your mind or whether it's making out or whether it's is there a difference? There's no difference. My point is, that intimacy and physical intimacy is not the first part of your relationship. It's one of the last part of your relationship. First, you need to build a real strong emotional relationship. But I can tell you, yes, your brain is tuned in to get to that physical intimacy. And that's how all animals are. But I think we are humans, and I think we also work with a certain moral constructs around it. Again, I said that physical intimacy is one of the most beautiful things you can do. Not when that is the first thing in your relationship, but that is when after you've understood your partner and you build an emotional relationship, then you bring in physical intimacy into your relationship. It becomes better. It's the way you place that in the stages of your relationship is all that I mentioned. And to me, there's no difference between an actual intercourse and making out. It's just the same.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. Actually, you can continue.
Yeah, I am. I'm willing to continue. Any questions? Of course, I think.
Sir,
Yeah, please go
I
ahead.
had a question.
Please go ahead.
The fact that you talked about, the tendency of men to think in a like sexually moral way. What do you think? How God would have designed us to actually look at the physical beauty of the woman? Like, in what sense? Like, we do
I
have
think
the
I don't think first of all, your name, Joseph. Joseph, I didn't think I really got your question. Do you mind just explaining a bit more of that question so that I can answer it well?
Just before you just said that the woman dressing immodestly, right? It doesn't matter. But I think like if we take the pornographic videos and all, we can see that they kind of dress it in the way that actually attracts the attention of the man. So what do you think God, like in God's eyes, how should it would we in a better way? Like how can we do it in a better way? Like this tendency comes in a physical way, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think what you said is a very important point, and I think maybe I missed it out also. If you look at the porn and the way the porn films are actually shot, you will find it has been shot only from a men's point of view. And almost always it just shows that sex is all about a physical relationship between the penis of the man and the vagina of the woman. And you'll see even the camera angles when it's, what I call an acting out there. The angles and the camera angles also kept just to capture that part of it. And it is never really captures the whole thing from a woman's point of view. And it is just seen as an instrument on which you just pound your flesh into. But the truth, as I said, if you read the women magazine, porn magazines, the women read. And as I said, a billion wicked thoughts and all explained, they're analyzed in detail. The words that are spoken most in the women porn magazine are his voice, his touch. He whispered into my ears. It's the softness and the romance of the man that is played up much more. They're all life stories. So what I was trying to say was there is a fundamental difference of the construct God has created between men's sexuality and the woman's sexuality. And the porn industry has, just exploited the whole thing only from a male perspective. And that is definitely not the right way to do. Now, the other is I also want to tell you is, again, the way God is there. For man, his orgasm can happen, his ejaculation can happen within few seconds. And premature ejaculation, for example, is a very common thing in sexuality, even among married people across there. But if a woman, for her to have a lubrication down there, it takes time. Now, for her to have an orgasm, it's a much longer time. Now, I can tell you that all these acts that you do, I did it, man, okay, and all that. Some men has gone and done it and he's tick marked. And I've done and I've done. Now, did she enjoy it? Did she do it? A lot of men don't even know that there has to be lubrication down there before you put your thing inside. So God has created sexuality in such a way that man manages to delay his ejaculation and the woman manages to do it so that he has an orgasm much faster. It's an art. And that's why I said you need to know each other for years for you to really manage that. So God has actually created the sexuality of ejaculation at the extreme ends, the time frame, to just make you come together with a lot of understanding. So it is not an act with one-off, they just do it in few minutes and rush off. It's a very selfish act by a man. Just he gets some ejaculation, he gets off. But it's where the woman's role is just not played out. And she not even be considered. But God didn't see it that way. And that is why, again, I'm actually talking about the role of this one within marriage, because marriage gives you that framework and that opportunity to understand the person, understand the mood, understand this one's all of it. And again, look at some of the movies that you've seen. I know you've seen the movie called Ende Kettiyolluru Malakhayaru. And it's the truth. And it's a simpleton guy who does that on the first night or whatever. He thought force that and all his way, because friends also tell him that Abu, whatever that famous actor is the guy who acts in that film. And he was actually raping her. And she is to be taken to the hospital. So all these men who watch porn things, that is the way to do sex. Exactly the opposite is what your sex life should be. Exactly the opposite. And if you've seen this movie called The Great Indian Kitchen, you'll find, again, his award-winning film of 2 years back. You'll see that man is doing something between her legs. പുള്ളിക്കാരി പാവം അവിടെ അടുക്കള ജോലിയെല്ലാം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇവിടെ വന്നിട്ട് കയ്യിലെ മീനിന്റെ മണം ഉണ്ടാക്കി നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. വെരി സെൽഫിഷ് ആക്ട്. അവൻ ചെയ്തിട്ട് അവിടെ തിരിച്ചപ്പുറത്ത് തിരിഞ്ഞു കിടക്കുന്നു. And that's what a lot of men's attitude to sex is. The woman has no role. But that's not the way. She has an equal role, had to do it. But I'm not getting in all, because these are things I talk about when you come for your pre-marriage course. But I just want to tell you is God actually wants you to, both of you enjoy it. But for you to create that environment, that's not the way you rush into a flat audition. That's not the way to do it. Sex is a much more beautiful thing. For you to enjoy it, just take your time and the approval. I think that social, this is an integral part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for clearing all the doubts that we had. Thank you for an enlightening and engaging seminar. Your expertise and passion for the subject truly shine through, and we are grateful for the knowledge you shared us today. Once again, thank you for spending your time with us. Now, I would like to call upon Josna for vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Today, we gather here with a heart filled with gratitude as we bring to close this remarkable youth seminar. On the behalf of the SYM Apparel team, I stand before you to deliver this vote of thanks, extending our sincere appreciation to all who have made this event a resounding success. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. First Chronicles chapter 16, verses 34. At this moment of reflection, it is essential for us to acknowledge the divine presence that has guided us throughout this journey. We extend our heartfelt thanks to the Almighty, the source of all wisdom and understanding, for blessing us with the opportunity to gather here today and enrich our minds. I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Biju Dominic, who have generously shared his knowledge and experiences with us. Your inspiring words have ignited a fire within us and undoubtedly serve as a guiding light as we travel in the journey of our life. Next, I want to extend our thanks to all the regional directors and animators, parish directors and animators, all the youth members from all the regions who have actively engaged in throughout the seminar. Your enthusiasm and eagerness to learn all what makes this events like this so fulfilling. Once again, thank you all for your support. We look forward to meeting you again in future events. We have shared the feedback in the group. I request you all to please fill the same.
Thank you, everyone. So thank you, bye, and good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a good sleep.